Tony Robinson is best known as the revolting Baldric from the series Blackadder and as host of the archaeology show Time Team. The teaching challenge has brought him back to an uncomfortable seat of learning.
I hated school. I have no good memories of school at all. I bunked off school all the time. I cheated in my exams in order to try and effect some kind of pathetic pass. At school, I was smart but dumb. I was smart in that I knew how to dodge and deal and twist. I was dumb because actually what I was not doing was preparing a route through for the rest of my life. I ended up with 4 O-levels. And this was someone who was marked down to go to Oxford.
Oxford's loss is our gain, as Tony attempts to teach an O-level history revision class who've been studying the history of public health and medicine. Shireland Language College is in the Sandwell area of Birmingham, where the head of history is Colin Vigar.
Now, I know this is a little bit unusual, in so much as we've got 2 groups together. You know we've got examinations looming, hence the panic with coursework.
I can't see he's going to have a problem with control and discipline, because I think the whole entertainer in him will shine through if nothing else does.
I'm not going to like walking into that school. That smell of not the greatest food in the world and not the greatest lavs in the world. It's not a cocktail I warm to.
Tony is going to swallow his discomfort and teach his pupils about his passion, the worst jobs in history. But as an academic underachiever, the classroom has never captured his imagination.
I'm not going into this class with any real aspirations. The best I can do is be me.
Biggest problem in terms of constructing a lesson that would, satisfy the demands of teaching. No, that could be it. I don't know what experience he's got.
I'm going to talk about stuff that I care about, and it's an act of faith that if I care about it, then hopefully some of them will.
Tony may be about to experience echoes of his own school days when he meets the no-nonsense Colin Vigar, a man who's very proud of his pupils.
Anybody care, if you don't know the better, anybody care to throw a name at him?
Aristotle.
Brilliant. Have you met him? No. Ajas, he answered the question about Aristotle early on, is very bright.
Zodiac Man.
Zodiac Man. What's the significance of the Zodiac Man?
For clinical observation of operation or something.
Oh, Anthony, yes. He's great. His perceptions there, the questions he asks, as well as his answers, are very far-reaching. I think Vida will speak, because she was absolutely delighted when she found out that Tony Robinson was coming, because she seemed to be the absolutely biggest fan with his programmes. And we've got Tony Robinson coming in next lesson, who is going to do what he said was an inspiration, that it was about ordinary people in medicine. And that was what he thought, ordinary people. Yeah. Tom?
I don't think he's going to know anything.
He was probably caned at school, because in the olden days they used to do them things. Just hope he doesn't pull out the ruler tomorrow.
Probably I don't think he will be able to manage a class like a teacher would, because he's not used to teaching the kids, probably.
Hopefully he can tell better jokes than Mr. Weigel.
I enjoy watching Blackadder, and I think he knows what he's talking about.
The worst thing that could happen is that they tear me limb from limb.
It is indeed. Welcome. Welcome. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Before Tony goes to work, Colin briefs him on the task ahead.
So, what am I supposed to do then?
Well, you're going to give us a lesson.
So what kind of objectives do you think that I ought to offer?
Well, what I've done, this is a kind of revision group.
Yeah.
Medicine is the revision. Now, we had a look yesterday at some of the key personalities, sort of Aristotle, Galen, Snow, and whatever else, knowing full well that you were enthused by the ordinary people. Mm. So you're going to fill in that gap. The first thing that student teachers usually ask is about control. Right? I don't think you'll have any serious behaviour problems.
Realistically, we're going to have cameras in this room.
Yeah.
if they know me, and coming in here, some of them clearly did know me, they're going to know me from both Time Team and Blackadder or whatever. I'd imagine that their main curiosity is going to be around the cameras and me as a person. Now, can I share that? Can I share some of that with them, or do you want me to be straight down the line?
No,
this is worst
you've got a
jobs?
lesson to teach. Yeah? This is a history lesson. Save that.
Oh dear. Tony's plans to entertain are withering.
They're expecting a lesson, and that's what they want. If they try to deflect you, don't let them. Right, motivate, engage and challenge. Yeah.
His mentor wants a little less show and a lot more business.
Try and make them to do some analysis, some thought. All right, best of luck.
Interesting to see how I get on.
It'll be interesting, yeah.
The inescapable responsibility of teaching is starting to weigh heavily on Tony's shoulders.
And all that. So I haven't got a 3/4 of an hour lesson.
Whatever.
So I'll just.
Yeah.
I'll just finish when I finish and go. I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean, they will be fascinating. There will be questions which hopefully will be related entirely to the history. Because,
Colin goes next door where he will monitor Tony's performance on screen. But despite his tough pep talk, Tony's still thinking like a TV presenter.
This is not the best moment. I'm waiting for the class to come. There's kind of absolute silence. It's quite eerie in the corridor outside, although I can hear noise everywhere else. And the minutes are ticking by. Here they are. Hiya.
I'm just going to put that cup of tea down before they come in.
I want to talk to you about some of the really worst jobs in...
No, he started, you see. She's not sat down.
Today, in Birmingham...
He's waited for that.
What do you think is a really rotten job? What's a job that you really wouldn't have to do? Yeah.
That's good. Move towards that. That's good.
Clearing away people's litter. Yeah, that's not the greatest job in the world. Has anybody else got a...
Straight away, Tony is engaging with the members of his class.
Yeah? Toilet cleaner. Toilet cleaner. That can be tough, can't it? Yeah. I mean, we laugh, don't we? We all laugh rather nervously because it's like it's to do with excrement and stuff. And it's...
But that's not quite enough for his watchful mentor.
Now, he started off there. He says, I'm just going to talk about some worst jobs. That's not a teaching objective. They've actually got to learn something. He hasn't suggested anything that they're going to learn. Right? So that's a bad mark to start with.
In the Second World War, my dad...
A cup of tea again.
He was in He was in the RAF.
Thankfully, Tony is unaware of Colin's blistering critique.
And he patched up the holes in the wings.
Aside from the beverage problem, Tony appears to have the full attention of his class.
Notice worse jobs. And I'll give you an example of that. I want you to be my knight in armour.
OK, now we go. We've got a bit of engagement now. There's got some possibilities.
Ishmael is a knight in armour in medieval times. That is a very cool job, isn't it, being a knight in armour? On what part of his body would there be?
Our guest teacher has moved into the middle of the classroom and further away from the subject matter for a demonstration of armour, which he might well need when he faces Colin's debriefing session.
I still don't know where we're going with this on the medical thing.
On here? Suit of armour. And on his legs, he'd have something that was hinged, actually, so he'd have one bit of armour down to his knees, and then there'd be a hinge.
He's got the delivery, but beyond that, there's very little. There's very little going down here.
It's difficult for you to move, isn't it, with all that stuff on? OK, sit down.
All right, so what point have we proved there? That if I cover him in sheet metal, he's not going to be able to move very much. Very nice.
So you can't see. You've got this, it's all made of tin, so you can't hear. You're walking around like something out of Star Wars.
And at this point in time, you know, when you do a debrief afterwards, you've just got to ask him if he knows where he's going, if this is planned. The whole thing should be very, very, very well controlled. It should almost be, pardon the pun, scripted. on this. He knows how long he's got to introduce it, how he's going to develop it, when he's going to get them active. It's a 45-minute lesson.
The old knight with his visor down might start killing his own men.
Tony might be off the lesson plan, but he is relating to the pupils and getting a willing response. And it's not long before he's back on track.
A battle, but you've been looking a lot at health and medicine, haven't you?
10 minutes in, and we're getting there.
And that's an exam you're going to do? So maybe it would help you if we look at some of the worst jobs.
No, not maybe. Come on, positive with them. You've got to engage them in this. It will help you. Be positive. You know, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you this. Got the tea again.
If you had a toothache now here in this class, I don't want you to tell me you've got one. If you had a toothache now, what would you do?
Go dentist.
He's trying to lead now, isn't he, into who people would actually visit, and I think he's trying to get that by saying we've now got specialists who we would go to, who we're familiar with, and that wouldn't have happened. And that's pretty good. That's pretty clever.
You know that. That's right. So there are people around all the time, aren't there?
It looks like Tony is at last meeting Colin's high standards.
Is there a medicine cabinet in
But not completely.
Come on, ask somebody in particular. If you want an answer, say, give them a name or gesture to somebody.
Do you know why he was called a barber surgeon?
Because he was a barber as well.
Why?
Because he was a barber, he shaved people's heads, but he was a surgeon as well.
But okay, that's fine. But why do you think someone who was a barber was also someone who was a surgeon? Yeah. Nice to hear from you. Hello.
Because he had experience with blades.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was after. He had experience with blades.
Good.
Is that the head of history smiling?
And also the other thing, there was a third thing. They were barbers, they were surgeons, they were also...
We need something visual here as well, don't we? We've got, 5 senses, and he's just continuing on just using one.
Something to do with... like...
Have a wild, crazy guess.
Something to do with space and...
Space, that's not there, so that's very good.
So we're 17 minutes in, and we've actually praised somebody for the first time for an answer.
An astrologer is, you know those pages in the backs of newspapers that say, like...
While engaging his class, Tony makes sure not to forget the viewer at home.
I'm not sure quite how much I'm supposed to be teaching these young people about blades, but I'm going to tell you this anyway because I think this is extremely interesting. May I cut your arm off for one moment? If I use a kitchen knife, like she's screaming with agony, right? Because there's no way to put her to sleep, is there? We haven't learnt about anaesthetics yet. So if we want to take her arm off and we use a kitchen knife, we've got a saw like this, and by now you're yelling with agony, aren't you? And we get like about a third of the way through. Sorry if this is disgusting. Then we turn it round, saw. Another third is done. Saw. So it's 3 lots of sawing before we can, before we got through to the bone. Yeah, exactly. So what we do is we use a curved blade.
Mr. Robinson's vivid demonstration of early medical techniques is not to everyone's taste.
So we mustn't make the mistake of thinking that the barber surgeons, although they did things which we think are barking mad, were
The kids are still sat there listening. It's just totally passive.
But Tony isn't going to let them drift off.
And what you do, I think his attention's wandering, so I'll force feed him a bit. Open your mouth. So you shove this long funnel thing right down him like that, and you shove the food in.
It's good. No, they've all turned. They're engaged, aren't they? They've all turned round to look